And welcome again. Today I want to talk to you about the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. Not just what it is, but why it matters and how it can actually be used to manage cybersecurity risk in a practical way. So as we all know, cybersecurity today is no longer just an IT problem. It's a business risk. It impacts operations, reputations, compliance, and ultimately the ability for an organization to function and grow. So what NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 does is provides a structured, flexible way to understand that risk, prioritize it, and communicate it across the organizations, from technical teams all the way up to the executive and the board. So throughout this session, I'll walk you through the key changes in version 2.0, what's new compared to the previous versions, and how the frameworks can be applied in a real-world context. The goal is to give you a clear understanding of how this can be supported, can be used for better decision-making and stronger risk management across the organization. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 is a globally recognized framework designed to help organizations systematically manage and reduce cybersecurity risk. What makes it really powerful is that it's not limited to a specific industry or organization size. It applies equally to small businesses, large enterprises, government, and critical infrastructure. It's also maturity agnostic, meaning whether an organization is just starting or already advanced, the framework will still provide value. It doesn't tell you exactly what to implement. Instead, provides a structured way to think about cybersecurity outcomes aligned to business objectives, risk appetite, and operational priorities. NIST designed the framework to be a living document, meaning it continuously evolves to stay relevant. Since the last update in 2018, we've seen significant changes. For example, cloud adoption, supply chain risks, ransomware, and now AI-driven threats. The Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 reflects these changes by incorporating industry feedback, lessons learned, and emerging best practices. The goal is simple: make the framework more practical, more aligned with modern risks, and easier for organizations to integrate into their overall risk management strategy. So the updated cybersecurity framework wasn't created in isolation. It was built through extensive collaboration. NIST engaged with industry leaders, governments, and cybersecurity professionals globally through workshops, working groups, and public consultations. There were multiple draft feedback cycles and refinements before reaching the final version that we have today. So this is important because it ensures the framework is not theoretical. It reflects real-world challenges, operational constraints, and practical implementations needs. One of the biggest shifts in the updated cybersecurity framework is the expansion of its scope. Previously, the framework was heavily associated with critical infrastructure, but now it explicitly targets organizations for all types and sizes. It can be used voluntarily or embedded into the regulatory and policy environments. Another key point is that it's not country-specific. It's designed to be globally applicable, which is why we see adoption across multiple jurisdictions and industries. This makes it a strong foundation for organizations operating in complex, multi-regulatory environments. The framework is built around three key components that work together. The core defines the cybersecurity outcomes, essentially what organizations should aim to achieve. Profiles allow organizations to map their current state and define their desired future state. And Tiers measures how mature and effective their risk management practices are. When combined, these components give organizations a structured way to assess where they are and where they want to be in the future and how to get there. At its core, the purpose of the updated cybersecurity framework is to help organizations understand, prioritize, and communicate cybersecurity risk. It provides a structured way to assess the current state, identify gaps, and prioritize action based on business objectives and risk tolerance. Equally important, it establishes a common language which is critical when communicating between technical teams, executive, and external stakeholders. This alignment is what enables better decision-making at all levels of the organization. One of the most significant changes in the updated cybersecurity framework is the introduction of the govern function. This elevates cybersecurity from being purely operational to being a strategic business concern. It focuses on areas like risk management strategy, policy, oversight, and accountability. In other words, it ensures cybersecurity is driven from the top with clear ownership, direction, and alignment to the business goals. This is a major shift and reflects how cybersecurity is now seen as a core part of an enterprise risk management. So the updated framework is structured around 6 core functions: govern, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. These functions represent the full life cycle of cybersecurity risk management. The addition of the govern at the top is key. It sets the strategy and direction before any technical activities take place. So the remaining functions focus on understanding risk, implementing safeguards, detecting threats, responding to incidents, and lastly, recovering operations. So together, they provide a comprehensive and structured approach to manage cybersecurity. Alongside the new govern function, the categories and subcategories have now been refined. There is a stronger emphasis on governance, supply chain risk, and organizational context. The structure has also been simplified to improve usability and clarity. This makes it easier for organizations to understand what is expected and how to align their controls with the framework. The framework is structured in layers, starting from high-level strategy all the way down to detailed execution. At the top, we have 6 functions which are broken down in 22 categories. These are further divided into 106 subcategories, which define specific accounts. Supporting all of these are over 300 implementation examples, which provide practical guidance. So this layered approach allows organizations to translate strategy into actionable steps. Now let's talk about profiles. Profiles are a key mechanism for applying the framework in practice. So the current profiles represent what organizations is doing today, while the target profiles define the desired future state. By comparing the two, organizations can identify gaps and prioritize improvements. This effectively creates a roadmap that aligns cybersecurity efforts with business objectives and risk priorities. So let's talk about how we create these profiles. So there's a structured process for creating and using profiles. It starts with defining the scope, then gathering relevant information about assets, risks, and controls. From there, organizations map their current state, identify gaps, and develop an action plan for the future. So finally, they implement improvements and continuously update the profiles. So this is an ongoing cycle that supports continuous improvement. So Cybersecurity Framework Tiers provide a way to measure the maturity of an organization's cybersecurity risk management practices. So they range from Tier 1, which is reactive and informal, to Tier 4, which is adaptive and continuously improving. Importantly, these are not about compliance. They reflect how well risk management is integrated into the organization's process and culture. As organizations move up the tiers, they become more structured, proactive, and of course data-driven. So at higher maturity levels, cybersecurity is fully integrated into decision-making, supported by strong governance and continuous monitoring. This is where organizations can anticipate and of course respond to evolving threats effectively. So to summarize, the Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 introduces a broader scope, strong governance, and more practical guidance for implementation. It also places greater emphasis on supply chain risk and alignment with other frameworks. Overall, it represents a shift towards making cybersecurity more strategic, more integrated, and more aligned with business objectives.